Comparison is the thief of joy.
Take it away.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Remind podcast. I'm Dr. Ashleigh Moreland and I'm joined by my beautiful friend and co-host, David Masterton. Welcome back, because one of the things that Dave mentioned just off the cuff in recording our previous episode, he was talking about comparing himself to others, and he recognized there was so much judgment behind him. And I had the same revelation when I was younger. So one of the things that really just burned into me is that, and I'd completely forgotten that we were navigating this it's like everywhere in our lives at the moment, is around the concept of comparison being the thief of joy. So I'm going to start this by sharing a story with you, Dave.
Story time.
My kids and the bleep iPad.
So we're saying,
I'm sure there are many
we're saying singular iPad, and we're talking about
their iPads. No,
I'm about to say,
my kids
so
and their iPads.
Right, as in not one iPad.
My goodness.
Two. Wow.
No. Just my kids and the iPads in our home. We have really, really, over the years, done lots of different things in terms of screen time. There's been times where we've done no screens Monday to Friday. There's times where we do an hour a day. There's times where the most recent thing we were doing was they have 100% battery power on Monday. Like, they charge it overnight. We take it off the charger Monday morning, and they get full autonomy about how they use it throughout the week, but they get one charge for the week. That's it. And that,
interesting.
I felt really strongly about that, rather than us imposing restrictions all the time, because I wanted them. My son turns 11 this week and my daughter's almost 8. They're reaching an age now where developmentally they are going to start practicing their own autonomy and making decisions and understanding consequences, and start being able to calculate the consequences of their own decisions. Developmentally, that's where they're at. When they were younger, they didn't have the brain capacity yet. They didn't have the brain structure, or developmentally the ability to make those decisions. So they relied on us to make them for them. Anyway, so what we've found is that our kids, we get really frustrated with them. And my husband was like, I'm almost at the point of sending the iPads to their dads and they won't have them here at all because I'm so bloody sick of it. And then when we actually sat down and spoke about it, I was like, if it wasn't about the iPad, what's it about? And he goes, it's just the constant comparing and constant, he got 2 more minutes than me and it's not fair, and she got it when I was at jiu-jitsu and it's not fair, and he got it when I was at swimming and that's not fair, and do I get to make up for it? And he got to play it when I chose to play with the neighbors, and like, it's just this constant bean counting. And I said that to him. I was like, if it wasn't about the iPad, what's it really about? And that's where we landed. It's actually about this bean counting and the fact that they were never satisfied or fulfilled or content with what they got. They were always whinging that the other person got more. And it wasn't fair. And, I sat with that and I was like, this is actually really, really important. And I had this conversation with my kids, and I said to Elijah, if Elodie didn't exist and all you had was your time on the iPad, would you be happy with the time that you had? And he said, yeah, I'd be really happy. It's like, I feel like I get to talk to my friends, I get to play the games that I like, I'd be really happy with that. And I said to him, isn't that interesting? Because in the absence of someone or something to compare it to, you are content and fulfilled, and your experience of having the iPad is lovely. And he said, yeah. And he didn't know where I was taking it yet. And I said to him, so there's this saying called comparison is the thief of joy. And what that says is that it's actually the fact that you are taking your eyes off your experience and casting them on someone else's and using their experience as the benchmark of whether or not yours is good enough. And my son is such a deep thinker, and he's so emotionally aware, and he's an incredible human. Like, he's on the spectrum and diagnosed with all the things. And he's incredible in the way that he sees things, in the way that he interprets things and understands things and digests things and dissects things. Anyway, I feel like something landed for him. And my daughter is younger, she's 7. She could kind of get it, but didn't quite grasp the same things to the same extent. But it sort of got me thinking about where else in life do we compare? And I noticed that I was doing it in my business. And I was like, oh man, they're at this level and they're doing this and they're able to do this program and they're offering that. And I was like, just recently when I was in Sydney for our business mastermind, I sat there and I was like, wow, this whole comparison is the thief of joy thing's coming up again. Because if independent of anyone else, independent of what anyone else was doing, if I just sat in the presence of the lives we've been able to change, of the programs we are running, with the resources we have to run them, with the impact we are having, with the resources we have to make that impact, with the fact that Remind was only launched 18 months ago. And look what we've done in that time. Would I be content, and would I feel joy, and would I be happy with that? And hands down, the answer was yes. If I sit in the energy of look what we have done, and look who we've been able to help, and look what the impact we've been able to have since launching Remind Institute 18 months ago, it's phenomenal. And it was only when I cast my eyes outside of what we were doing for too long that I started to feel this push that we're not doing enough and we need to be doing this, and we're failing because we haven't helped all that million people over there, and we haven't done this yet, and we have, oh my gosh, no, and just this energy behind it of like constantly failing, and that we're not doing enough, and that we should be doing more. And it was so fascinating to sit in it and go, I would even compare myself to other practitioners and go, yeah, their children are adult children and don't need them the same way that my young children need me. These people have been in business for 20 years, not 18 months. These people have had the opportunity to learn this or go there or do this, and we're on different journeys. It's like this inner narcissist comes out and just makes everything about that we're the center of the universe, and we're comparing that center of the universe to everything else. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. Very long story to intro, but that's what I wanted to talk about, because there are absolutely areas in our lives, and I see it everywhere now. I can't unsee it, where in the absence of comparison and in the absence of judgment, if we sit in the acceptance and reality of what is and our experience is actually very fulfilling.
And look, anyone who's had 2 younger children, similar ages, like close to each other, will experience why do they get that? Why do, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's an absolute thing. And so I think we don't, I've got stories, but I don't think I'll go into them, because I think most people can either they've experienced it as a child or they have children themselves. But what it got me thinking was, as you were talking about that, is relating it to your healing journey. Yeah. Because there's part of you that sort of goes, okay, I'm doing what I'm called to do. And you always have this sense of, am I on the right track? Like that sort of head over heart. Your intuition says, go this way. Yeah. But then your head goes, okay, just checking in. Are we on the right path? Are we doing this? Da, 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 da. What does that look like? Do I need to prepare for something? Is there something we've missed in the past? And then what if you just called to rest? What if you called to purge? Yeah. What if you called to reflect? And then you come across someone who's sort of talking about the fact they're living their purpose. And you're going, whoa, I really want to live my purpose. And what are they doing? Well, they're doing that. Well, are they doing a better spiritual job than I'm doing? oh, okay, so really what I need to be doing, if I'm really serious about this, I need to push through all of these things, and it's the trauma I need to work through, and it's the healing, and then you suddenly start to go, well, am I triggering something within me which needs to be released, or am I going against the grain here? The grain being the intuition.
And it's, do you recognize, like, in yourself that it's almost like, so that's what living your purpose looks like, but I'm not doing that, and so I must be doing it wrong.
Yes. So when I sort of see it, it's this whole thing of when I see these people, sort of like, wow, they're living their purpose. I have so much more I need to do. And so, well, I'm going to call that the wounded view of it, right? Because what I'm now experiencing is when you listen to your intuition over your fear, you are indeed living your purpose. It's not necessary.
Exactly.
So
I love that.
Instead of looking at my purpose is, now there's a difference, right? There's living your purpose and how that aligns with you making money, right? Because hand on heart, when people think about living your purpose, it normally comes down to how do I make money, right? Because you can't live your purpose and not make any money at all, right? In this reality, you need to make money. We live in
a fiscal economy on the planet Earth. That's just what makes the world go round, 100%.
So when you sort of start to separate, okay, that person's getting money from what they're doing, which is aligned to their purpose. Well, it just means that some people might actually have a bit of a head start when it comes to that, right? And some people may have to grow it like an oak tree. Both uniquely different to each other, but it's not one person's doing it better than the other person, right? Because at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong. It is simply your journey, if you choose it, based on free will. So when it comes to comparison, and I've been absolutely in all of this because I used to use it as a healthy barometer of, am I on the right path? Because I didn't have intuition. So I had to compare where I needed to be based on what I thought were reasonable indicators of where I needed to go. And so because I'm a fairly driven guy, I would go, okay, this is what's doing the medium, like the basic job. This is an adequate job. This is an outstanding job. And in between all of that, this is where I see myself going. And so you're constantly checking, a bit like a sonar. Am I getting closer? Am I getting further away? Bing, 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 bing. And it's all head-led. And it's comparison-led. Yeah. Because you have to know, and this is my favorite question to ask people, because it is so fundamental to so many things, and this is a comparison for comparison as well. How do you define a problem? And to me, the answer is the negative difference between the outcome and the expected outcome, right? Yeah. And so to be able to do that, you need to have a comparison. You need to have point A and point B. And so when you're constantly comparing and you need to be bouncing off something else, as opposed to this complete polar effect of intuition, which is just go this way, just go this way, just go this way, just go this way. Yeah. But what about just go this way? How do I know? Just go this way. Excuse me, can I see? Just go this way. Can I get some cover? Just go this way. It's so infuriating and beautiful at the same time. Yeah. And so the comparison is about, what does your healing journey look like? Because you don't know, because you're damn well writing it as you go through it.
Yes, and it's looking through the human eyes.
Yeah.
When we're comparing, we're only looking at what our eyes can see. We're not looking at the reality or the truth of the situation. I had no idea that this would link so beautifully back to the previous episode. Again, we're only seeing what our human eyes can see. And the detriment to that is that when I would just see at that moment in time what the human eyes could see in someone else's business and what the human eyes would see in my business without zooming out and without the ability to see the unseen of the challenges it took to get there, of the context of their life now and in the past and in the future, around what direction they're heading, what their goals are, what their vision is, what sets their soul on fire, who they really want to be helping, and all these other things, aspects that provide context. That's missing in comparison. And so I think, and I feel that even just saying that when I'm like, the energy of frustration that comes up in my body around these iPads, when I'm like, yes, but you're only looking with your human eyes and counting in human elements time and what you can physically see that's providing the evidence in front of you, and what you are seeing is stealing your peace and your joy. Because without the context of, yes, he got to play it while you were at swimming, and yes, she got to play it while you were at jiu-jitsu, and yes, but if he wasn't playing the iPad, would you have had fun with your friends, our neighbors, and been fulfilled in your life and experienced joy and peace and love? Yes, I would have. But that was stolen by the fact that I chose to see that while I was doing that, he had the iPad, and that's not fair. And so it's just this illusion of what is coming to steal our joy, and it's what we're seeing with our human eyes around us that is not reflective of reality. It's lacking context. It's lacking the bigger picture. And I just think that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
And I think as well, when you're living your purpose versus being successful. Now, they can live together. But for the most part, let's look at it from my point of view, back before the healing journey, what did success look like to me? Because at that point, I knew that, well, really, what was my purpose? I didn't even ask myself the question. If I had to dig too deep, it wasn't a happy place. So the purpose of life is to be born, grow up, find someone that you hopefully love and they love you, have a family, work, pay bills, do this, and then what? Wait for retirement, or look for certain things and aspire to replicate something you see on Instagram, or have a nicer car than anyone else. I mean, these things make you feel good for a moment, and you can feel pride with the work that you do. But the scorecard existed. It was a scorecard based on, and a scorecard can only exist if you can go yes or no. And again, the only reason you go yes or no is because there's a comparison. Did you do this or did you do that? Boom, comparison. Versus just living your purpose. Whatever that is, just go this way, just go this way, regardless of if you think it's going to be successful or not, because newsflash, and many people will probably been there before me and will come after as well, is that when you're healing, you don't necessarily get the certainty of success. Hence why it's faith, leap of faith, surrender.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So
faith is in the unseen.
Yeah, so there's no success like necessarily. You can look back and be proud of yourself because it was that, right? Now it's for me again comparison. If I had to draw comparisons, will I make a decision out of fear versus a decision out of faith with my intuition? Well, for me, success is I will always choose my intuition.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
And that can be so hard because then what the eyes start to see is different. So something I ponder is what's some evidence that you're successful if we define success as coming into alignment with your authentic self.
But again,
and sometimes
I just got to jump in there. We have free will. not aligning
course.
yourself is okay because it's part of the journey. Like you're always doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we place this thing of success. Well, you are successful if you're healing. You are successful if you're ascending. You are success, like in a spiritual terms. But hang on, maybe this is my bloody 300th reincarnation, if you believe in that, or whatever it is, that I had all of those, we'll call quote unquote, unsuccessful to get to the success.
No,
well, guess
not
what? None of it was.
Exactly.
But you know what I mean? But there's this undertone of, yeah, especially when people are healing and all of that, that again, this whole comparison of what is successful. So even you're going to be finding success in not succeeding because you're going to learn. Yeah. So the whole thing, and I know we're getting into this absolute mind melt now
I love it. I love it because I look at it and go, we were having this conversation recently around, when you're doing something right, when people really come at you or people start falling away from your life. And the reason I say that is because, I'll peel this back down to the absolute most simple form of what is our soul's purpose. Our soul's purpose is to evolve. That's it. It's a universal law. The universal law is that unless we are expanding, we are dying. It's that simple. And so some of us have a unique blueprint that makes us more aligned to go through one vehicle for our soul's growth compared to another. So for us, absolute nutcases in the world, entrepreneurship was the vehicle chosen by my soul to evolve and grow. We experience relationships and they become the vehicle through which our soul will evolve and grow. We experience parenthood, and God knows our children are the vehicles for us to evolve and grow. There's no choice.
Exactly.
It's a constant thing, right? And so I look at it and go, okay, well, if the purpose of my existence is to evolve and grow, and the only thing that changes is the vehicle through which we do that, well, then obviously mistakes are going to have to be a part of that. But I have... And I think a few episodes ago, you and I did this little bit of a reflection on what was our life like 6 years ago. And the really cool thing about that for me was about going, wow, there's so much evidence of evolution. So that to me is success, where I go, I have evolved. Now, my financial position is probably worse now than it was then. I literally am earning less money now than I was 6 years ago. And there, you look at so many other measures of success from a worldly standard, from my eyes, from the accountant's perspective, from the, from, all the things.
All of that, yeah.
And it looks like I'm less successful. However, when we did that review from 6 years ago, our lives are so different. And when I sort of reflected on this a little bit, and I was like, well, what is the evidence that I'm more successful? And you know what? I have almost no one in my life now that was in my life 6 years ago. People fell out of my life, and it was the greatest blessing. So that was evidence that I was on a good path, because then the people who fell into my life were so much healthier, and so we have such richer conversations, and our time isn't spent whinging and moaning about other people and constantly sitting there comparing ourselves. Our time is spent in engaging in this rich, deep, raw conversation that goes to soul level, and it's beautiful. And so secondary to people falling out of my life is the deeper connections with the people in my life. And I look at that and go, oh my gosh, yes, I feel like I've won the lotto, because I feel deeply connected instead of just attached, loosely attached. And then, with that comes better emotional intelligence. And it doesn't mean to say that we don't experience the really big emotions.
It's still human.
But it does, to me though, I feel like I move through them much faster. I feel like I can have greater resilience to the effects of the emotion. So previously in my life, I would have had a really big emotion, and then my whole life would have collapsed around me for the period of that emotion. Whereas now I'm able to be present to the emotion and still uphold my life. Like my whole life doesn't crash and crumble around me. And that to me is success. That's a massive success. I look at career changes, business changes, life path changes. We're on really different paths right now than where we were 6 years ago. That to me is success. Hugely. And so when I started to look at, well, what's the evidence here? I have greater boundaries. I've got more joy. I have playfulness is something I still struggle with, to be perfectly honest. I struggle with the lightheartedness, playful side of life. My husband really shines there. My kids call him literally a kid. And he is playful and he is joyful, and he draws that out of me a little bit. But there's courage to be vulnerable. I know vulnerability is one of your favorite topics. Like you've spoken into vulnerability a lot. There's authentic expression. I feel so much more safe to authentically express myself, knowing that that's my truth and that others don't have to like it. There's so much in success that when you point to your soul's one purpose, your soul's sole purpose of expansion and growth, everything else, like the things that we start to measure against and the evidence that we're looking for, completely changes. And I'm okay with that. Although my Harry does still look at the bank account and freak out.
think we all do, don't we? And look,
especially in 2024 in a cost of living crisis.
And that's the thing. It's when you compare, you've sort of the comparison. You've given yourself something that you think either you need to aspire to or that you're better than. Now, what if your purpose or your intuition's leading you to something much bigger? Because your intuition's rigged the game. It's leading you to success through hurt, through healing, through all of that. It's just that you're not necessarily going to get the certainty or the ability to be able to front run it. So because if you were given all the answers when you started, there's no choice, there's no learning. That's right.
There's no expansion.
It's just, But this one's going to have to be a short one, Ash. But
that's
I think comparison-wise, I understand why people use comparison. I used it as everything, right? But it's not about judging yourself against somebody else. We're all here. We're all doing our thing. Right, wrong, up, down, left, right, black, white. It doesn't matter, because those comparisons are coming from your perspective. When you follow your intuition and allow it to speak more, it'll take you where you need to go.
Yeah, 100%. And on that, that's what I love about Rise and Thrive. And I say to people every round, the most beautiful thing is, if you want to compare, we've had people who are on the cusp of homelessness to multimillionaires in that. We've had young people, old people. We've had people who have had huge intergenerational trauma and people who didn't have intergenerational trauma, but just they want to improve themselves. There is so much on the spectrum of what we would look at as successful. And I call it the great equalizer because it brings us back to the essence of who we are and the rawness and realness of our unique journey and the value that our journey has when we choose to accept it on humanity. And you can't replicate that. It's so powerful. So I love it.
Well said.
Let's see how we go moving forward on our awareness of comparison, because oh my gosh, it's everywhere.
Let's see how next week's episode
One of those things I
compares
wish I
to this
didn't
week.
see. Oh, yes. Maybe we could do that.
We can see how that goes. Anyway, as always, people, that little subscribe button, whether it be on your phone or whether it be on your computer or your TV, it's still very easy to find. Hit it. We'll thank you for it. The like button, if you like it, let us know. If you don't, also let us know. We can go from there. All right, till next week, Ash. See you later, everyone.
See you guys. Have an amazing week.